All right, who's ready to dive into Disney Lorcana? Today, for Sports Card Madness, we're taking a quick detour from sports cards, and we're going to get into this Disney Lorcana madness. We brought our buddy Steve back on, and he's about to school us in all things Lorcana, what cards to flip, what cards are most valuable, how to game this, and he had a lot of great tips, so hopefully you guys enjoy this one.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Sports Card Madness. This is LZ here with Nick, and we actually brought back a guest for this episode. We brought back Fireman Steve for another episode. So the last episode we did with Steve, we covered a lot to do with the Whatnot platform. And I thought it was great. That episode was great. We really got into it. I really appreciated even just like the background that Steve brought to that episode, which is kind of understanding how Whatnot, the actual company itself, was built and who the investors are and whatnot. So, I mean, with
Yep.
Whatnot, I didn't,
Yeah.
I use that one, but it's, so the one thing I wanted to mention too, that I forgot to mention on the last episode is, I introduced Steve as Fireman Steve because he is a fireman. And Steve, thank you for your service as a fireman and serving your community. But Steve is also a businessman. He's a very, very good builder. He owns a company, a construction company, building beautiful homes. He's an investor. He's an entrepreneur. So it didn't surprise me in the last episode that you came prepared with kind of the background of these companies and who the investors are and all that. So thank you for that. But Steve, it's really good to have you on again today.
Thank you, guys. Nice seeing you again.
Yeah, good to see you too,
Excellent.
man. Thank you for taking time out. So again, Steve, we brought Steve on for Whatnot because he's a wealth of knowledge there. The other thing that Steve has really dived into recently that Nick and I probably use a little bit of education on, and then after we get some education, we'll probably have some opinions on it as well, is this big Disney Lorcana craze. And Steve's been probably talking to me for, I don't know, probably 6 to 8 months about collecting this set and doing some really cool things with it. So I wanted to talk today, and hopefully, Steve, you can educate Nick and I and the audience, because I'm sure a lot of the audience members maybe haven't heard about this, or if they have, very, very high level, and it could be something interesting for them. So let's get into it, Steve, Nick.
Sure.
Let's get into this topic.
Very good.
Steve, just to open it up for us and the audience, what the hell what the hell is Lorcana? Tell me and Nick what we're dealing with here. What is this?
So the simplest way to put Disney Lorcana is like the new Pokemon. So I guess like back in '97 when Pokemon come out, it was a kid's game, like literally a game where each little person or each little figure has a certain power and can do magical things. And I never understood Pokemon. I still don't understand it. I never tried to understand it. But I know kids still play it. And I know it's a big thing. And I know some cards have a lot of value to them. So I only heard about Disney Lorcana. It was kind of, believe it or not, through Whatnot. So a few breakers were talking about, they were all like, we hope we get Lorcana. We hope we can get Lorcana. And I don't even think it came out till, I think the first boxes weren't supposed to hit the shelves until September 1 of 23. But they knew it was coming. So I'm like, oh, this sounds cool. It's a Disney. So I'm like, everything Disney sells. Everybody loves Disney, whether you're a kid, an adult. And so I'm like, oh, Disney's jumping on this trading card bandwagon. So I'm like, I want to know more about it. So the simplest way to describe it is Disney Lorcana is a trading card game. There's like 204 cards, and they're all valued at like a rare, a super rare, a common, an uncommon, and a legendary. And each card has certain value in certain capabilities during the actual game. So I'll tell you right now, I don't know nothing about the game. I don't know how to play it, where to start, but I know it's a real thing.
Yeah.
And I know people play it. So I'm like, oh, I want to get in on this. But I wanted to get in on it more from having the cards, like owning the cards, getting them sent to PSA. Because I just feel like Disney always sells, whether it's now or in 30 years from now. So I did as much homework as I could. And then like come like September when everybody's trying to get it, like nobody can get it. Nobody, Walmart, Barnes and Nobles, nobody can get it on the shelves. So it all got scooped up, from somebody. Like, I don't know if the bots bought them all from eBay, or I don't know, like if all these breakers got them, but somebody got all the Lorcana cards. And so you can only really get them on Whatnot, or you can go on eBay and overpay. So I overpaid for some of them just because I got to get my hands on a few of them. But it took probably 2 months of nonstop Lorcana to really like dial it in and figure out what the valuable cards are, what's selling on eBay, what the demand is. There's 12 enchanted cards is what they're called. Those are like the elite. So I'm like, all right, I don't have any intentions of playing this game ever. I don't have the mental capacity to learn this game. I'm just going to go after the high value cards and get them all slabbed and put them away. And then I hope in 25 years, they're worth something for the kids. So that's kind of how it's fun.
Steve, these enchanted cards, sorry to interrupt, but these enchanted cards, you mentioned that there's 12 of them. Is there only 12, or is there like 12 like Simba enchanted and 12 Mickey enchanted level, or is there legit only 12?
Nope. So there's 12 figures, if you want to call them that.
Okay.
So there is a Simba.
Okay.
There is an Elsa.
Right.
The Elsa Enchanted is like the cream of the crop. That's the number one card in
that's the Mickey Mantle.
That's the Mickey Mantle.
Okay.
So the Elsa Enchanted is the big card. Anybody doing Disney Lorcana breaks, they want the Elsa. But it works its way down. There's like two Mickeys. There's the Elsa. There's the Simba. There's a Stitch. There's an Aladdin. There's there's a couple other ones. But there's only 12 figures. It's an enchanted card. So that's, and then in the actual game, like they're like the super card. But so I'm like, all right, I really have no intention of buying all these 204 other cards that mean really nothing to me. I'm going to go after the big cards, the high value cards. So I would either buy in on breaks, or I would buy the card individually on eBay, or if I would get lucky at like a Target or a Walmart to find something on the shelf, I would buy packs or buy a box. And I would send everything out to PSA, hope it comes back at 10. And that's kind of how this all started.
Interesting.
Okay.
What's cool is you were like, I'm going to put it away for my daughters, for 25 years. I know LZ and I, so we haven't dabbled in Lorcana. I'll get into that in a second. But one of our thoughts, because we're autograph guys, right? So we're like, okay, what if we scooped up, like, maybe it's not the enchanted or the highest level ones, but what if we scooped up some of these, and some of the animators are still alive, some of the voice actors are still alive, like, Tim Allen signs a lot for Buzz Lightyear. That's pretty easy, and that might be interesting to tuck away because Disney has long-term value there.
Yes.
So that's actually fascinating. All right.
So it's funny you brought that up, because that's a real thing.
Yeah.
They have these conventions, these game con conventions that I've never actually personally went to, but I know it's a huge attraction. It's a huge following. So when these Disney Lorcana cards started coming out, at the bottom of each card, it tells you who the artist is. Their name.
Okay.
Yeah, their name is on the card. So it's not like have a Tim Allen sign the Elsa card. It's kind of like, well, it doesn't make any sense. Like so these big breakers and these big Lorcana followers were gathering up all these cards, as many as they can, going to these game con conventions. And they would know what artists are going to be there, and they would get the artist to sign the card.
Smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was not cheap. You were paying for it.
Right.
And then even to bring it to the next level, the artist started to realize, like, instead of, if there's such a like huge demand and a huge following for me to sign this card, I'll sign my name for $50. But if you want me to like sketch on it or like draw, like almost like a personalize it, not like, dear Larry, more of like if you take a Rapunzel card, for example, and he would like, draw like on her hair, or take like the Elsa card, and she's like, like blowing like snow and ice. He would like outline the ice and draw around the ice. And he's like, oh, okay, I can do this, and I can get $100 a card now.
Nice.
So it kept adding value. But the more doodling, if you want to call it, on the card became the cards more valuable. And no card's ever the same. That's the other thing. So like on eBay, huge demand for this. So that
they do this in Magic the Gathering
awesome.
too.
Yeah, same thing.
I actually did this during COVID just to flip a little bit. I found some of the artists for the Magic the Gathering cards, and I just got like 20 cards signed, and they 10x'd, and I sold them for like bonkers money on eBay, and I kept a couple. I even had them do like artist sketches and things like that. So it can get you can get creative. It doesn't have to be all about athletes and everything.
Yep.
All right. So here's my major problem with Lorcana. I have a big question around. Okay, you've got the triple logo man in sports, right? Or you've got like dual autos, triple autos. I saw this crazy thing. It's like triple auto. It's like Pluto, who doesn't even have hands, and like, Mickey Mouse, and I don't know, somebody else is on the card. Have you seen this card? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do not.
All right.
I do not know what this card is.
I'm still trying to find out who signed that damn thing, whether it's like, the guy in the outfit at the park, he signed it.
No. So I'm pretty certain it's the artist.
Okay, that's acceptable to me. But
every single card, all 204 cards, have the artist's name on the bottom.
Interesting. So it must be the three artists of those three characters.
It could be. Yeah,
that's cool.
But the other thing is, I know there was some guys going to these game con conventions, and they were just getting autographs on the card, whether it's the actual artist or not. Because in the hype of it didn't matter. Like we're like, nobody was really paying too much attention. Is that the real artist? Is it not the real artist? They were just getting cards signed by these Disney artists at this convention. But I'm pretty certain like Pluto running around Magic Kingdom with like a 30-year-old dressed in a costume is not signing.
I hope not.
I don't think so, at least. That's my opinion. It's the actual artist.
Yeah.
All right.
And and also, like, when you go to PSA now and you do a submission and you click on like the auto, like who's signing, all these Disney
artists, cartoonists,
they're on there.
Right.
They're actually listed at this point. So
okay,
I know that's real. That's a real
question for both of you.
That has value.
So I have this theory, right? Like, Steve, you're saying that these cards have the artist's name on them. Let's go get them signed by the artist's name. I want to use Nick's example.
Yes.
But is there a Buzz Lightyear card?
There's not a Buzz Lightyear.
Oh, all right. Let's say there is.
Because I don't think Buzz Lightyear is Disney. Isn't he like Pixar?
Oh, Pixar.
Pixar, yeah.
Oh,
Pixar.
maybe that's different.
Right.
It's
not
all
OG
right. All right.
Disney.
Let's pick Simba. Right? All right, Simba. Wasn't that like James Earl Jones?
No, you're thinking Simba's dad,
Mufasa.
Man.
Mufasa. All right,
that's
Mufasa. All right, we're gonna go with Mufasa. So you have the artist of Mufasa. You can get that signed, or you can go hunt James Earl Jones down and get him to sign that card. Which card's worth more money?
Probably James Earl Jones.
Yeah, especially given the age and his prominence, definitely James Earl Jones.
Yeah,
I would say so.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think he's out doing public signings either. So there's your degree of difficulty factors in there. You may never get him to sign it, right? So if the artist is easier, I don't know.
Right.
You have to do your research. Interesting. Good question.
Yeah. I like that idea. But these artists are at these conventions.
Right. Yeah, I've been to some of these with my daughter. It's awesome.
Is it? I've honestly never been.
It's
Yeah, like
amazing.
Comic Cons and yeah.
I met like
Mhm.
half the office cast, within an hour, and then I'm hanging out with a Goonies guy, and then I look to the left and there's a Star Wars person, and I'm like, this is just glorious geekdom, and I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
getting everything signed. It's amazing.
That's
And
cool.
yeah, she loves it. All right,
Yeah.
So
so
is Comic Con the one that comes to Boston, Nick? Is that the one you go to?
they
Or which
can't
one do you
do
go to?
they can't do Comic Con anymore for some
Oh,
reason. So it's called Fan Expo, but it's
Fan
it's all
Expo.
kind of the same thing, right?
So
They just
Steve, you should stay close to Nick because he goes, I think it's every summer, every fall, and bring those Lorcana cards with you, and
right.
maybe
I
you can
like
get
it.
some.
There's
I
artists
like it.
Yeah.
there. They had the Mario games, like the guy who drew Bowser's voice, stuff like that. So yeah, we'll go, man.
Mm.
It's in
It's
early
interesting.
August.
I like all that stuff. That's fun. I never been to
Awesome.
one. I never
So
been to one.
one
But
quick. Oh,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that I look at it as opposed to if like a baseball player has like a good game or if a basketball player has a good game, like his value goes up. Um, if a quarterback, God forbid, goes out there and gets hurt, his value goes down. But with Disney, there's no reason why it should tank.
Yeah, Simba can't get injured.
Yeah, Simba's
Um,
not getting hurt.
yeah,
Everyone's
he's not.
still
He's not
going
even
to
going to age.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, so-
And it's a long-term thing. That's how I look at it. It's a yeah, you can make a quick buck if you get lucky with a card and you flip it. But it's more of like, hey, let's gather some Disney. It's never going away. Disney will be here forever. And I look at it as chapter one, which is what this is always holds the most value in anything, in my opinion. So there will be a chapter two, which is already out. And now the craze for chapter one has kind of fizzled. And now the craze for chapter two is at its highest peak. And there might be a chapter three, there might be a chapter four, but at the end of the day, my take on it as the first chapter of anything will always hold value down the road at some point in time. That's just
Steve, is right now a good time to buy chapter one then? Just try to scoop it up with the craze of chapter two coming out.
it's still it hasn't like tanked or even close
Okay.
to tank. It won't
right.
tank.
Hmm.
It's still pricey, but the drive and the demand, like for example, like when I told you a minute ago, like you could not find this product anywhere at a Walmart, a Target, or a Barnes and Nobles. It was impossible. But now, if you go into a Walmart, Target, you'll find the chapter one. You'll find a couple packs. You'll find a box because everybody's moved on to chapter two because that's the new. It's the exciting. It's the new rush, if you want to call it. So the demand is still there. The demand is super high right now for chapter two because it's the newest. But
Okay. Right.
I have no interest in chasing chapter two. Because in 10 years from now or in 20 years from now, I feel like chapter one, the original, will have the most value.
Sure.
That's
Until the chapter two Moana card comes out and the Rock signs it and everybody wants that Rock
that's right.
card.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But it's interesting. And I got my daughters in on it. So now like I'll buy some boxes and we'll do Lorcana breaks. And it's just fun. It's cool. And they're a little more into it because they know all the Disney. I don't do baseball breaks with my daughters because they're like, oh, we don't know who this guy is. But if they get an Elsa or if they get a Simba, they're like, oh, this is Elsa. Like they get a little excited. It's cool. It's enjoyable.
Yeah.
So Steve, what's the difference between Lorcana and the Disney 100 cards? Are those just cards and not a game?
That's correct. The Disney 100 is not a game.
Okay. Makes sense.
It's 100 years of Disney, and they came out with these cards, and it's all like the famous people and the famous characters, but it is not a game. This is an actual game. And there's a store not too far from here that sells sports cards and Pokemon and Lorcana, and the whole second floor of this store. I went in one night just randomly. I wanted to check it out, and there was probably at least 40 or 50 people, all age, playing Disney Lorcana.
Wow.
The actual game. And I didn't understand it. I didn't even try to, but people are in on it. It's like the new Pokemon game.
Okay. All right.
So it's a real thing. Disney
Yeah.
100 is not a game.
Just for the audience who wants to get into this a bit more. So you referenced that Simba's a big one, Elsa's a big one. What are some of the other big ones? Like I'm going to go buy a box at Walmart tonight.
So I'm gonna say Elsa's the biggest.
Yep.
Followed by a Stitch.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
And then there's a Tinkerbell.
Mm-hmm.
There's two different Mickeys. There's a Genie.
Okay.
So I would say the two biggest are the Elsa and the Stitch. It's called a Carefree Surfer.
Okay.
That's the extra one you want.
The Carefree Surfer.
Wow.
It's Stitch on a surfboard.
What's the biggest ones that you have? Best ones you have?
I have all those.
You do?
I do.
All right. Multiple?
Multiple. I'm trying
Nice.
to build like you guys are aware, and I know you do it, like people are trying to build sets. Sports card sets. I look at it as I want to build the enchanted sets. And I hope at some point I'll have like one for each of my daughters. So I want them all to be PSA 10s. And so if I send in 100 cards to PSA, if they don't come back 10s, I just put them on eBay and dump them.
Okay.
But my goal, and just for long term, is I want to get sets of the Enchanteds, just all PSA 10s.
Love it.
And put them
That's
away.
That's going to be
and
a beautiful set. That
whatever
would be
happens,
awesome.
happens.
Yeah. That's beautiful. That'll be great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
So next time you're doing a break, Larry, you want to get the Elsa.
Okay. All right. I'm waiting for it.
Yeah.
Nick, I got one that I just want to dovetail because I know you're probably chomping to ask a question. But all right. So what other recommendations would you give me, Steve? Or anybody new starting? So I want to look for the Elsa, certainly, and some of those other big cards. Any other recommendation for someone starting out?
The next big cards after the Enchanteds are the Legendaries.
Okay.
And so I don't know what value they mean in the actual game. I just know
Yeah.
like their value of like of a resale or what they're worth. The other thing to be careful about is if you're gonna go on eBay and start buying these, you got to make sure they're not like game used, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay.
Like these kids and these adults that are playing these games, like they're sliding the cards across the table,
probably slapping them down, sliding
Yes.
them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these cards have it's like a foil. They have like an actual foil on top of the card, and you're well aware like a foil can get damaged easily.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're trying to get a PSA 10 on a foil, it literally has to go from like pack to sleeve.
Okay.
So don't just go crazy on eBay and all these sites that are just selling Lorcana cards and hope they're all going to come back PSA 10s, because you hope they're not game used or played with.
Right. Okay. That's good. Thank you
yeah.
for those recommendations. All right. Awesome.
I do wonder if like movie releases or re-releases or like ride openings or stuff like that will impact the value. And you think about sports cards and it's like, okay, player has a good game. CJ Stroud's having a great year. Their stuff goes up. But as you said, like Simba's not getting injured. He's also not going to hit like the winning 3-point shot. So it's like, what opportunities are there for bumps? And I'm thinking like, okay, they open up like the Toy Story Park or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
or a new ride. I don't know. Have there been any like fluctuations from things outside of just, the value of the cards? Like have events changed
I think
them?
movies play into it more than Disney opening a new ride.
Yeah.
Like what makes the Elsa card the most valuable card in this whole entire game? I think because the Elsa movie was probably like Disney's biggest movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But like you just mentioned, like Moana and The Rock, like.
Yeah, I think they're doing a live Moana, I think, in 2 years. So get
Like,
ready for that card. You want
ultimately,
that one.
that has to drive Disney products up. And
Of course.
so I agree with you. I think movies probably have a large play as opposed to a new ride opening up at Magical Kingdom or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I think you already touched on it too. You definitely did, Steve. I think me and Nick talk a lot on this pod around just like if you're trying to find an area to collect where maybe you actually want to do some flipping or you want the value to increase, I think a good way to a good spot to look is where the fans are passionate. So we had Cousin Eddie on a few episodes ago, and he was talking about how he collects a lot of wrestling and a lot of NASCAR. And like you look at both of those fan bases, they're
Yes,
passionate fan bases.
massive.
So it's like those are huge. And to the point you're making around Disney, it's like, I mean, who doesn't love Disney? I mean, a lot of people probably get annoyed with going to the parks because it's crazy expensive. But I mean, I think everybody can appreciate Disney and the movies. And I mean, certainly it has an impact on a lot of our kids as well. So
Yes,
that passion's there,
I agree.
right?
I
Yeah.
agree. Disney's
Yeah.
Disney. Whether you're 3 years old or 100 years old, like everybody wants to go to Disney at least
Mhm.
once in their life.
Mm.
Um,
What's your theory on, and you touched on it a bit with your kids, so maybe you feel the same as me, but I'm curious. Is this a good like gateway collectible for kids that maybe eventually they will graduate to the sports cards?
I think so.
Yeah.
Um, I think it makes sense. It's there's so many different sports now, and there's so many different athletes now, and they're changing so frequently that it's hard and it's difficult for a newbie in the hobby of sports cards to follow it all. It's impossible. It's changing so much. But for a young kid that wants to get in on it, like Disney's Disney, the characters aren't changing.
Mm-hmm.
They're not getting hurt. They're not being benched. They're not having, Tommy John surgery. They're
Right.
they're playing with their Disney cards, and it's a little more exciting to them because they know all the characters. They know
Yeah.
all of them.
Oh yeah.
So, like I was telling you, like there's 204 cards. My three daughters know all of them.
Right.
There's no way they can know all these athletes in these different sports. So that's not boring to them. It's they need to be able to understand it, I think, and be a little
That's a
excited about
good
it.
point, Steve. Sorry to interrupt, but that's a really good point. Like even some of these smaller sets, like Nick and I talk a lot about the 1986 Flair set. There's like 143 cards in that. Um, Back in the day, there's a good chance that I probably didn't know like 20 of those players out of 147.
Sure.
And you're telling me your daughters know all 200 and what, seven? Like
204.
204.
Because it's
So
all
yeah,
Disney.
I mean that's big. There's definitely something there. That's a
Well,
Yep.
talk
good
about widening the hobby too, right? The hobby isn't just sports cards, like me, like us three, right?
hmm
Obviously, there's your Magic and your Pokemon, and then now Disney. You want to get more women and more daughters into this. It's not going to be through more like Ron Acuna cards and things like that. Like
Mhm.
you got to do other things.
True.
And I think Disney is kind of an interesting way to bridge the gap a little bit. So
It's very true.
yeah,
Yeah.
And then I can't rewind time, but like in 1997, I don't know why did people even play Pokemon? Like why did it even happen? Um, and then like you said, like Magic the Gathering came out. Like what does it even mean? Like what is Magic the Gathering? Why do people even play with that?
Mm.
Um, but this is Disney. This is Disney's version of that. Um, and it's a huge name, so it has to have something. It has to hold value.
It'll be
Um,
interesting to see if they truly turn this into a game. So Pokemon is very widely done as a game. Magic as well.
hmm
Massive.
Big rewards. They have, you can become like a coach, you can become a commissioner, you can like run leagues and things like that. I I think I'm still skeptical that this crosses the threshold from a collector thing to a game. It's Disney though, so I'll never write them off, but we'll see. We'll
This
see.
could just be the gateway for them to get in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
hmm
maybe next year they'll revamp the whole system and all these cards that we need now, like get you access to something else down the road. Who knows?
Cool.
Yeah.
But it's just came out and there was a massive craze for it.
I
And
think if a country like Japan really catches on to this, now we're cooking. Now we're
Yeah.
cooking with gas, right?
Right.
Yeah.
If it becomes real international and you get some of these countries that are big into these trading card games also digging this Lorcana as well, that could really make it take off. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, Steve, this isn't necessarily related to Lorcana, but
Okay.
we sometimes ask guests this question because it's kind of a cool hobby question. If you were going to sit down with like a teenager, one of your daughters, or any random teenager, and they had $1,000, they saved up their birthday money for a while, they got a grand, they want to get into the hobby with that $1,000. What do you think they should do with it?
So am I playing financial advisor
Mm,
or am I playing you want to have fun?
I'd say a little bit of
yeah,
both. You can take it any way you want.
So
yeah. I mean, it
Yeah.
could be half and half. I mean, it's
Yeah.
up to you.
be half and
It's your
half.
advice, right?
The safe bet is to buy a Brady, buy a Jordan, buy a Wayne Gretzky, buy a Bobby Orr, like get your hands on something like the greatest. Buy a
Mhm.
Tiger Woods. But that's boring. That's boring. So it would be a difficult sell for me to tell a 15-year-old boy who's like, hey, I have $1,000. I'm like, hey, just go buy like a decent Jordan and put it in your bedroom. Like, that's not fun, right?
Right.
So that would be the safe bet. The fun way to do it would be, hey, take $1,000, go to a sports card show. Maybe buy a couple cards that you like. Maybe try and move on to the next table and see if you can trade up on those cards you just bought. And slowly work your way up. That's fun. That you're learning about the hobby. You're learning the value of sports cards. You're learning what's expensive, what's not expensive, who's the hot players, who's not the hot players. I feel like that they'll understand and appreciate more and learn more as opposed to just buying a card and tucking it away. So I think I can go both ways. For me, myself, I want to have fun doing this. I mean, after all, it is a hobby.
Right.
So what's the point of having a hobby if it's boring, right?
Yeah.
So it's fun and I don't know how many card shows you guys attend, but it is a young crowd. And these kids are walking around with cases of thousands of dollars of cards. So I like to see that. Not that I've been doing this my whole life, but I think it's super cool to see like a 12-year-old walk around like a card case. And actually like wheeling and dealing and making his own moves as opposed to his mom and dad standing over his shoulder.
It's life
Like,
skills right there.
Life skills. Like they're learning value, and these kids know the values of these cards, and they're making these trades. That's cool. That's exciting. That's fun. You might make a couple bucks, you might lose a couple bucks, but you're learning, and it's a life experience, like he said, as opposed to buy a Brady and tuck it away. Like that's a smart play, but it's boring.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Excellent.
So it goes both ways.
Yeah. Little bit of both.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, this is helpful. It's funny. I almost don't know where we came out on like our opinion. You know how like before an NFL game, everybody kind of makes their picks. My personal prediction for Lorcana, it might be a bold statement actually. I don't believe in it. I think
Okay.
I think Disney's getting a little too big for their britches, and it kind of follows the decline of their shows and everything. But I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
Who
I don't
knows,
know.
right?
It could be a long hold though,
Yeah,
because we talk a lot around like what's valuable now is the crap that nobody was collecting 20, 30 years ago.
of
So if
course.
this thing bursts and you scoop it up and hold it, and everyone's just whatever, they're done with it. Maybe it is worth something, but you got to
Yeah,
hold it. Maybe you got to hold it a while. And that probably plays well into what you're trying to do, Steve, right? With your daughters, right? You're trying to build this and then give it to them. So, yeah.
Who
cool.
knows? We'll
Cool.
see.
Yeah.
But in
Great.
the moment, it's fun.
Yep.
And it goes back to the whole like kids and the females and the sports cards is I enjoy all of it. I enjoy all the sports. I enjoy everything to do with it. And I want my three daughters to not like follow me, but I want them to kind of understand like sports cards and value of things and what's worth this and what's worth that. And the only thing they can understand now is like is Lorcana. So it's cool. Like we'll open packs, and if we pull a card, like my oldest daughter will go, Dad, let's put it on eBay. That's worth $35. So like they know.
That's fun.
And like that's cool.
Yeah.
And I'll say, hey, like we can put it on eBay and you can make a couple bucks, or we can put this one away. It might be worth money, it might not be worth money. And I'm like, you pick. This is your card. You make a decision. Like, you want the money now, or do you want to kind of hold it? So if that's the only way I can get through with them in this sports card hobby world, like I'm fine with that. I take them to sports card shows now, and they're slowly learning, like, Dad, that card's too much money. Or they'll actually like they all have phones now, so they'll pull up eBay on their phone. And I'm sure Larry can like say the same thing. They'll look and see how much the card is worth, and they're like, Dad, that guy's asking too much money, or like, Dad, that's a good deal.
That's cool. That's cool.
They're all into the Disney, and it's fun. It's cool. So
I like it.
See what happens, man.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for your input, because LZ and I had not a clue. Probably still don't. I think it was very helpful. I do understand it a bit better, especially who's signing things and stuff like that. So thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on again.
Hey, thanks, you Steve. Guys. Nice seeing you as always.
All right.